It began with whispers, rumors of a California set taking root in Baltimore. Then the whispers turned to gunfire. The 8TRAY Gangster Crips had arrived, organized, ruthless, and ready to make their mark. But their ambition put them on a collision course with the Black Guerrilla Family, a gang born from revolution but hardened by violence. What followed was a battle that stretched from prison cells to city blocks, a body-for-body war that left fear hanging in the air. And once it started, there was no turning back. Back in the 1970s, heroin was running heavy through the neighborhoods in Baltimore. Then came the 1980s, when crack cocaine hit like a storm. And with it came the rise of local neighborhood gangs hustling to control the flow. But the game didn't stay the same. By the 1990s, things started to shift in a big way. A state report actually points to that period as the time when the Bloods began moving into Baltimore, spreading down from the north. They didn't just show up and start repping colors, they got strategic. The Bloods pulled together several smaller street crews, already hustling along the Abington Avenue corridor, forming a powerful local subset. And they weren't only building on the streets. The report shows they were recruiting inside Maryland prisons too, expanding their reach from both sides of the system. Over time, other gangs found their way into the mix. Baltimore became known as a patchwork of smaller neighborhood crews, each holding down their own territory. Still, the big names, the Bloods, the Crips, the Black Guerrilla Family, kept their presence alive, especially in certain pockets of the city. Fast forward to the 2000s and beyond, and those names haven't disappeared. They're still out there, though the structure looks different. Jason Johnson, a former Baltimore police deputy commissioner, once broke it down perfectly. Baltimore's gang scene is unique. Unlike in some other cities where colors or set loyalty define everything, here it's all about the money, the drug trade. These crews operate less like brotherhoods and more like businesses. Their loyalty isn't to a flag, it's to the money. Think of it like organized street entrepreneurship. Their set is their brand. For years, they've quietly built control over blocks, corner stores, and local hustles, all revolving around profit. And that nonstop battle for territory and cash flow, it's what keeps the violence in Baltimore alive today. But among all the names that rose from the city's underworld, one crew stood apart, and their story began thousands of miles away. The 8TRAY Gangster Crips, or as they call themselves, the ET Crips story starts way back in the 1970s out in Los Angeles, California, right off 83rd Street. That's where the name 8TRAY comes from. Over time, the gang grew branches, or what they called cliques, in different parts of LA. You had the Back West ETG Crips on the west side and the nutty north side ETG Crips up north. Eventually, their reach stretched far beyond California. By the 2000s, the ETG Crips were setting up shop in other states, and Maryland became one of their biggest strongholds. In Baltimore, crews started modeling themselves after those original LA sets. The Baltimore Hilton and Lexington Terrace crews called themselves the Back West ET Crips, while the Frankfurt Sinclair crew repped the nutty Northside ET Crips. Even though these sets came from different neighborhoods, they moved as one unit, working together, sharing product, and trying to stay one step ahead of the law. Inside the gang, everything ran on a tight hierarchy. You started at the bottom as a baby gangster, or BG. If you earned your stripes, you became a young gangster, YG, then a gangster, G. From there, it climbed to original gangster, OG, and even higher to original gangster, OOG. It was all about respect, loyalty, and proving yourself. But it wasn't just about ranks. They had rules, and breaking them came with serious consequences. Members had to live by a strict code. If you disrespected the set, talked to cops, or acted without permission, you could get fined, beaten, or worse, killed. The biggest violations: snitching, unauthorized murders, and anything seen as disloyal. To earn rank, members had to put in work, meaning violence, shooting at rivals, intimidating witnesses, carrying out orders from higher-ups. That's how you gained respect in the gang. Joining wasn't easy either. A recruit needed a big homie to vouch for them, had to study the gang's history and rules, and then swear a loyalty oath. Once you were in, it was for life. In Baltimore, the ETG Crips ran several drug spots, what they called shops. They sold just about everything, and if you weren't part of their crew but tried to move product on their turf, you instantly became a target. Their main base was the Baltimore Hilton neighborhood, but they also had control over corners in Lexington Terrace and Frankfurt Sinclair. They weren't stuck in the old school way of doing things either. They took their presence online, using Instagram and YouTube to flex power, claim turf, and send warnings. Members posted photos and rap videos flashing guns, making threats, and bragging about what they'd done. It wasn't just about the streets anymore. It was about building a name. And their crimes? They went far beyond drugs. Murders, robberies, assaults, witness tampering, you name it. The violence wasn't random. It was planned, ordered, and used to earn rank within the crew. At the top of the back west 8TRAY Crips in Baltimore was Trayvon Hall, known as True or G True. Inside the gang, he held the title of G. Hall came out of Allendale in southwest Baltimore, an area around West Baltimore and North Hilton Streets, long known for its violence. In 2013, Hall made a big move. He flew out to California to meet with original Crip leaders, looking to get their official blessing to start a Baltimore set. He even claimed to have approval from a Crip leader in New York. Basically, he wanted to make Baltimore's 8TRAY Crips recognized on a national level. And his message to the streets was loud and clear. As Hall once said, the streets took notice that if you messed with them 8TRAY guys, they were going to kill multiple people behind it. Now, from May through November of 2016, Hall and some members of the East Side 8TRAY Gangster Crips were deep in a plot, one that wasn't just about money or territory. They were planning murder. Their target, the Black Guerrilla Family, or BGF, a rival crew running a competing drug operation in Baltimore's Lexington Terrace neighborhood. Things were heating up fast, and what started as street tension was about to turn into full-blown warfare. Now, the BGF isn't just some random neighborhood gang. These dudes got history. The gang was originally founded in 1966 by George Jackson, a former Black Panther and revolutionary figure. Jackson made his name in California's San Quentin prison, where he wrote Soledad Brother, a powerful memoir about life behind bars. But over time, the group he started, born out of Black resistance and political unity, turned into something much darker. Former convict turned Hollywood writer Edward Bunker once described how Jackson and a few others ran through a prison tier, stabbing white inmates just because of their race. It showed how the movement's early idealism was getting swallowed up by the brutal realities of prison life. Like many other gangs, the BGF traded political goals for power, drugs, and survival. If you trace the BGF's rise in Maryland, the name Eric Brown comes up quick. Locked up at the Metropolitan Transition Center in Baltimore in the late 2000s, Brown helped write the Black Book, a kind of manifesto meant to inspire and organize Black prisoners. That book spread fast, and so did Brown's influence. Inside the system, he ran things like a boss. One inmate, known as B. Moore, put it plainly. Eric Brown started the BGF in Maryland. When he was inside, he had the officers on payroll, bringing in drugs, running plays. He showed folks how to do it smart. Brown's power was real. Even locked up, he had corrupt officers smuggling in cell phones so he could order drug deals and beatdowns. Court papers even claimed he was eating Crab Imperial and drinking Grey Goose in his cell. But his run ended in 2009 when he and over 20 others were indicted and later pled guilty to racketeering. Once Brown got shipped to federal prison, a new leader named White took over. Still, locking people up didn't stop the movement. The BGF just kept spreading from prison tiers to Baltimore streets. B. Moore said it best. It started inside and moved out. It was a movement from the inside out. Behind those prison walls, recruits were being pulled in daily. You either paid a monthly fee or worked for the gang, refused, and you became a target. Even correctional officers weren't safe from the gang's influence. As B. Moore explained, you got inmates and female officers from the same neighborhoods. What do you think is going to happen? Power attracts people, even behind bars. And that attraction turned into one of the biggest prison scandals in Maryland history. At Baltimore City Detention Center, nearly 7% of inmates admitted to having sexual contact with officers, way above the national average. Court documents later confirmed what rumors had been saying for years. Some female correctional officers were getting involved with BGF members, both physically and criminally. The gang used those relationships to their advantage. Officers became couriers, sneaking in contraband through hidden compartments in shoes and clothes. Heroin, ecstasy, tobacco, phones, whatever they needed. Some reports claimed that over half the 650 officers at the detention center were mixed up in smuggling operations. Officials tried to deny it, but the paperwork didn't lie. So why were people joining up? For some, it was about the BGF's revolutionary image, the connection to Black Panthers and radical pride. For others, it was about power, money, and belonging in a system that gave them nothing else. That mix of danger and rebellion carries a certain appeal in the streets, where survival often trumps morality, but that mix also poisoned Maryland's prison system. The corruption ran so deep that the BGF didn't just survive, it thrived. As B. Moore put it bluntly, the BGF run the Maryland system. Everybody knows that. And now it's not just a prison gang. In Baltimore, the BGF has moved beyond the walls, taking control of major drug markets and entire neighborhoods. What began in California as a movement for Black empowerment has evolved into one of the most powerful street and prison organizations in Maryland, a full takeover from the inside out. But by May 2016, the game had shifted and so had the rules. It all kicked off back on May 18th, 2016. Hall was the one calling the shots, laying down orders to Darren Hickman, Marcus Williams, and Keith Pinson. The way he talked made it clear this wasn't just casual street talk. It was deadly serious. Hall broke down what it really meant to be a Trey in the 8TRAY Crips. To earn that name, you had to bash a J, meaning you had to kill a member of the rival BGF gang. He made it sound like a test of loyalty, saying that was how they were rocking now. Once that rule was set, Hall got straight to business. He told the crew he needed pictures of their targets, and Hickman and Williams didn't waste time. They sent him photos of 3 BGF members, Albert Pitman, Shyheim Brown, and another man known only as Victim 4. Later that same day, Hickman reported that he had eyes on one of the targets, saying the guy was out front his spot leaning and car peeking. Hall was all in on keeping the pressure high. He mentioned that Pinson had already tried to drill someone the night before, but came up short. Frustrated, Hall told them they definitely need to send some fire today because he didn't want the rivals getting comfortable. Hall then asked Williams a strategic question. Was there a way to creep up on the basketball court at Lexington Terrace from the back? Williams confirmed there was, explaining he and another member had used that route before. Hall saw the opportunity right away, suggesting they could catch them like that, meaning catch the BGF crew off guard. Then he put Williams on the spot, asking if he was ready to lead the next drill that night. Williams didn't hesitate. He was ready. By the next day, May 19th, things were heating up. Hickman spotted Albert Pitman and his crew hanging out on Cherry Blossom Way and quickly reported it. Hall's patience was wearing thin. He snapped back, asking how Hickman kept seeing the targets but wasn't firing. Hickman told him straight he didn't have his gun on him. Williams stepped in, trying to cool things down, saying he didn't want to waste bullets and miss. Hickman reassured them he was on the lookout every day, promising that when he moved, it'd be finished. Hall agreed, reminding them it wasn't about wild shooting, it was about shooting to kill. Later that day, Hall pushed the plan even further. He told Hickman to hit up a mutual contact and ask if he'd be willing to set Pitman up. The contact agreed, but made it clear the job had to be finished. Then came May 20th, and Hall's mindset got darker. He told Hickman, Williams, and Pinson he'd been firing shots at anyone he thought might be connected to the BGF. He said he didn't know who was who anymore, so he was rocking things any chance he got. Basically, anyone standing in the wrong spot was in danger. That same night, Hall and Hickman planned to ride through Lexington Terrace and kill any BGF members they found. Hall wanted to blitz them from behind, calling it the only sure way to make kills. Hickman agreed, telling him to call when ready. Hall said he'd be bringing his 30-round clip and told Hickman to grab some 9mm ammo. 2 days later, on May 22nd, Hickman hit them with another update. He'd seen some BGF members hanging out, including Albert Pitman in a blue jacket. Hall immediately wanted every detail, knowing it could be their shot. Fast forward to June 12th, Hall was talking again, this time about an initiation. He mentioned a guy about to be beat into the set by 3 others, Hickman, Williams, and Alvin Johnson. Just 11 days later, on June 23rd, those same 3 tried to murder Albert Pitman and Shyheim Brown on the 800 block of West Lexington Street. But they missed and instead shot 2 innocent bystanders. 2 days after that botched hit, Hall got a call from Devin Powell, who was locked up at the time. The call was recorded. Powell asked if the 8TRAY Crips were still putting pressure on their rivals, and Hall said they were. He bragged that Hickman had hit the gas recently, meaning he had just done a shooting, and that Johnson was with him. Powell replied that if he weren't in jail, he'd be out there hitting the gas too. Then came the final chapter. On July 18, 2016, a little over a month later, Hall finally caught up with Albert Pitman, the man they'd been hunting from the start. On the 4,800 block of Midline Road, Hall shot Pitman dead, and just minutes after the murder, he sent a text to his associate. 2 words, cold and final, checkmate. Now on October 1st, 2016, a phone call went down between Ridgely Shipley and another man whose name's being kept under wraps for legal reasons. The two were chopping it up about tightening things within the ETG Crips, making sure only the real ones were representing the set. The other guy wasn't playing around. He made it clear that anybody claiming 8TRAY Gangster without being official had 2 choices: move with them or get moved on. Basically, you're either all in or you're gone. Shipley didn't hesitate to back that energy, sealing it with, "That's on the set." Fast forward a few weeks to October 19th, 2016, Hall was on the phone with that same co-conspirator, talking about a book he was working on. This wasn't some street novel. Hall wanted to tell the real story of the ETG Crips in Baltimore. He wanted to break down everything from their original blocks to the OGs who helped build it. To keep it authentic, he asked for the special codes that ETG members used while locked up. The co-conspirator said he'd have to dig those up from some papers kept at Shipley's house. Then came November 1st, 2016. Hall got on another call with the same guy, this time heated about the Black Guerrilla Family. He was frustrated one of his boys was sitting in jail, but said he was ready to rock his lil homies, meaning he'd hold them down no matter what. He wasn't shy about disrespecting the BGF either, saying there were only a few of them left and calling them clowns. To make his point, Hall even sent over a picture of 2 guys, Shyheim Brown and another known as Victim 5, calling them the lore monkeys still hanging around their circle. That's when the conversation took a dark turn. The co-conspirator hit him with a coded question. "We going 47, yo?" Crip talk for putting in a murder. Hall's answer came cold and quick. "Yeah, about clean them up." 10 days later, on November 11th, 2016, that talk turned into bloodshed. Hall pulled up to the 800 block of West Lexington Street and opened fire on members of the BGF. When the smoke cleared, Shyheim Brown was dead and 2 others were hit and wounded. Hall didn't stick around either. His getaway driver, Donald Foster, had his black Honda Accord waiting to roll him out. But the craziest part, Hall wasn't hiding or laying low afterward. He was bragging. Right after the shooting, he texted the co-conspirator like it was a victory lap, saying he'd just bashed the monkeys and laughing about how they didn't expect him to be out. To top it off, he sent a screenshot of a local news article about the shooting. The headline reading, "Triple shooting in Poppleton claims 1 life, wounds 2 others." Now, between July 2017 and July 2019, the tension between Hall and the Abington Avenue drug crew had gone from talk to full-blown war. The ETG Crips, led by Hall, had muscled their way into Abington's territory, and Hall wasn't playing nice about it. He made it clear, anybody who didn't fall in line was getting dealt with. Violence wasn't just an option, it was the plan. Then came July 6, 2018. That's when things really spiraled. Hall rolled up to the unit block of Abington Avenue, spotted some of the rival crew shooting dice, and opened fire from inside a white GMC Acadia. The gunfire killed Stephen McKnight, known as Bo, and injured another man. What made it even darker? Hall used the same 9mm that had been used to kill another Abington Avenue member, Theron McClary, the summer before. Less than 24 hours later, Hall hit Instagram like he was proud of it. He sent a link about the shooting to his boy Ronnie Finney, then posted a photo showing Mitch Finney throwing up ETG Crip signs. The caption said it all. "Move in silence, only speak when it's time to say checkmate." Hall wasn't hiding his message, he was calling checkmate on his rivals. By April 2019, the violence still hadn't cooled. On April 13th, Hall and his crew went after another target. This time, they brought in a new recruit. Dude was nervous behind the wheel, but Hall told him to chill. He'd learn. As the recruit drove through Abington Avenue, shots rang out from a 9mm and a .45. The target got hit in the shoulder, but survived. Hours later, Marcus Williams texted Hall a news article about the shooting, and Hall kept the conversation going the next day with Keith Pinson, confirming the rookie was part of it. Hall even made it official, welcoming the recruit into the ETG Crips and breaking down the gang structure, history, and his own roots in the back west side of the set. Then came May 19th, 2019. A call went out about a shooting on Greencrest Road in Baltimore. Joseph Williams had been shot multiple times but somehow survived. Investigators found 4 9mm shell casings at the scene. Weeks later, police arrested a man named Devin on an unrelated gun charge. And when they ran his gun through the Nibbin database, it hit. The 9mm Sig Sauer recovered from Powell matched the casings from the Greencrest shooting. A firearms expert confirmed it under the microscope. The same gun was used. That's when things started clicking into place. Security footage showed Hall and Powell together near the scene less than 30 minutes before the shooting. They were caught walking and talking behind the 4,900 block of Greencrest. Seconds later, a red SUV, just like Hall's Mitsubishi, rolled by. Moments after that, Powell ran up behind Williams and shot him multiple times, even while he was down, before taking off in the same direction as the SUV. Investigators compared the footage to an Instagram post Hall made that same day. In the picture, Hall and Powell were flashing Crip signs, wearing the exact same clothes seen on camera. The caption, "Third War." That phrase wasn't random, it was a nod to ETG Crips' violent legacy. The pieces were falling right into place. But the digital trail told the real story. About an hour after the shooting, Hall searched Twitter police on Google, clearly checking to see if word had spread. Then, the very next day, he switched to a brand new phone number, cutting off any link that could tie him to the crime. Just a week later, on May 26th, Hall texted Powell, mentioning how Powell had fired his 9mm Sig Sauer about 7 times before it jammed. Hall even sent a video of himself breaking the gun down like it was just another day. Put it all together, the ballistics match, the footage, the Instagram post, the texts, and Hall's sketchy behavior afterward, and the story becomes crystal clear. Investigators believe Hall wasn't just nearby, he was part of it. He allegedly supplied the gun Powell used to shoot Joseph Williams, and then drove him away from the scene. The evidence painted the picture. Hall wasn't just the mastermind behind the ETG Crips turf war, he was knee-deep in the violence himself. By the summer of 2019, things were closing in fast on Hall. On July 24th, a grand jury in Maryland dropped an indictment on him. The charge? Being a convicted felon caught with a gun and ammo, something the feds take real serious. That same day, U.S. Magistrate Judge J. Mark Coulson signed off on an arrest warrant. The manhunt for Hall was officially on. Less than a week later, on July 30th, Judge Stephanie Gallagher gave the green light for search warrants on Hall's world. They were coming for everything. His spot at 1427 Hadwick Drive in Essex, Maryland, his red Mitsubishi SUV with the Maryland tag 3DR 7595, and even his iPhone. The next day, July 31st, the law pulled up hard. FBI agents and a joint task force moved in and grabbed Hall right outside a nearby house on Hadwick Drive. Once he was in cuffs, they started tearing through everything. Inside that red Mitsubishi, they found a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson M&P pistol, serial number HLA 8409. That right there was the smoking gun, literally. By August, investigators cracked into Hall's iPhone. The same number they'd been tracking was linked to him, along with another old one. But it wasn't just phone numbers that caught attention, it was what was inside. The messages painted a picture of violence, loyalty, and gang business. One contact stood out, Smuppy G. That number traced back to Devin Powell. On June 9th, 2019, Powell sent Hall 3 photos of the two of them flashing Crip signs, clear as day. It was proof of their connection and exactly where their loyalty lay. But the texts that really hit hard were from May 26, 2019. Hall and Powell were chopping it up about swapping guns. Hall wanted to trade his 9mm Sig Sauer SP 2022 for Powell's .40 caliber. Powell wasn't feeling it. He called Hall's 9mm that lemon juice, basically saying the gun was trash. It jammed too much. Hall tried to smooth talk him, saying it should be good now, blaming the problems on either the gun needing a cleanup or Powell not handling it right. He even pointed out it was 15 and there was only 7 left, meaning the gun fired 7 times before jamming. Powell still wasn't buying it. He told Hall that his .40 was his favorite Bippy, but he checked with his lore man to see if he wanted to make a deal. When Hall asked what kind of gun the guy had, Powell replied it was dirty, street code for a weapon that's already got a body on it. Then came the video. Hall sent Powell a clip of himself taking apart a gun. FBI analysts zoomed in and confirmed it was that same 9mm Sig Sauer SP 2022, the very same piece later recovered from Powell when he got arrested on June 26, 2019. Even worse, that was the same gun used in the attempted murder of Joseph Williams a month earlier. Everything tied right back to Hall. Investigators dug even deeper. They found that Hall had been talking to Powell from another number. On May 7, 2019, Hall texted, "Smuppy G, how you feeling 3?" And Powell hit back, "I'm cooling too with GC, we about to shoot this video real quick." Earlier texts showed the two discussing gang structure, ETG Crips history, and even violence to keep their rep alive. The digital trail made it crystal clear. Hall was not only leading, but actively feeding the chaos. Fast forward to October 2020. A federal grand jury in Baltimore came through heavy, indicting 10 members of the 8TRAY Gangster Crips. The feds described them as a crew that thrived on fear. Violence was their calling card. FBI Special Agent Jennifer Boone didn't hold back, saying the ETG Crips were tearing communities apart, especially in places like Lexington Terrace and the Baltimore Hilton area. She made it clear. Law enforcement was done letting them run the streets unchecked. The indictments were a message to every gang member in West Baltimore. Nobody was untouchable. The government said different subsets of the ETG Crips controlled various drug corners across the city. West Baltimore and South Hilton Streets, West Lexington and North Fremont, and Frankford and Sinclair Lane. This wasn't new business either. Prosecutors said it all traced back to at least 2008. These guys had been wrapped up in a racketeering conspiracy that covered murder, robbery, drug trafficking, witness tampering, you name it. Hall, the big dog, pleaded guilty and got slammed with 454 months in federal prison, almost 38 years, for racketeering and drug conspiracy. Even when he's done, he's got 5 more years of supervised release. Powell, his right-hand man, got 235 months, just under 20 years, plus 5 more on supervised release. Marcus Williams, aka Gangsta C, caught 87 months, while Ridgely Shipley, known as Crazy, got hit with 184 months for racketeering and using a gun in a violent crime. When all was said and done, the message from the feds was loud and clear. The 8TRAY Gangster Crips reign in Baltimore had finally hit a wall.